That's right. That's right. It is championship weekend. We had some upsets, but we got some good matchups going on. I'm excited. Columbia Crew in the house. Graham, how you doing, man?
Things are good. Christmas is done. This is the lost week of mankind. Those 6 days between Christmas and New Year's where you don't know if you should be drinking, working out, sleeping. You have no idea what to do. These 6 days are just a loss for everyone in mankind. So here we go.
Have you been working this week?
Yeah, I've been working. Yep.
Yeah, me too. And it's been a bummer, man. Quite frankly, like I said to myself, like, why did I not take this week off? Because it feels like I shouldn't be doing anything.
Yeah. Yep.
But
Alas, here we are.
yeah, it's grown man time.
That's
Grown men
right.
have to work, and I have to acknowledge the fact that I'm not a child anymore, even though it feels like I should still be 18 years old. Okay, Graham, we got two. We're gonna focus kind of for the most part. We'll recap last week, and I'll let you do that, kind of our predictions and our points and what happened, right? Because there were some upsets, and then we'll focus on the championship matchup, and we'll focus on the teams that maybe should have been there. Cleveland Steamers going against High Life. We'll talk about that matchup. And tell me what happened last week, man. What did we think was going to happen, and what actually happened?
Well, so our predictions, we were split on the High Life Creaton game. You picked Creaton, I picked High Life. You had it 221 to 214. I had it 220 to 225. And we did talk about it being a higher scoring game. I know I mentioned that, but nobody predicted Amari Cooper and Joe Flacco having just, a team record, like a franchise record in wide receiver yards. No one predicted that went off. And it was funny how it went off, that it went off in a point where, here High Life had all these San Francisco guys who could go off, and it made his real game, the Baltimore-San Francisco game, it made that game just fun to watch as compared to needing fantasy points. So that was, that's tough for High Life to lose going into it like you're already done. You've got, 100-point deficit going into this. That was tough to do.
Yeah, it kind of was that situation where people argue about what's more important, the weekly matchups in real life, what defense the team's going up against, or the talent of your players. And for the most part, I think usually you can rely on the talent of your players to overcome matchups, especially when you're talking about guys like Deebo Samuel, right? But Baltimore's defense, I mean, what a game, dude. I haven't seen them play defense like that since the Ray era. Speaking of Ray, pretty awesome that he gave a shout out to Miller on his birthday.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. That's a highlight for High Life.
Yeah, I mean that now I want to do that more for everyone, because it's such a cool thing to do. But so Miller's matchups in real life were just tough. He had San Fran going against Baltimore, and so and then Kelsey doesn't show up because that team's in a funk. So and Josh Allen only 42 points, which is really a below average week for him.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, Craig just hit the jackpot because he had Breece Hall going against the Washington defense. Breece Hall drops 43. And then he's got Amari Cooper, who plays out of his mind in this Joe Flacco renaissance. It was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing that, that Cooper could do that. And, Joe came back. We all know Joe's got a great arm, and we talked about that quarterback who just doesn't give a shit anymore. But that's 64 point. I mean, no one predicted that, and I think a lot of teams who had Amari Cooper, I'm willing to bet that most teams who had Amari Cooper in all fantasy had him on the bench. I feel like he would have been like your fourth receiver. He was a flex for Craig. So I think that's one of those things. But going back to Craig, I mean, he did also have Rashad White and Mike Evans, Tampa Bay. I mean, White is the number 2 overall in points for running backs. He was a 6th-round pick for Craig. We'll talk about it a little bit later. Yeah, I mean, overall, just Craig had one of those days. I mean, 310, that's the high for the year. Just, what a day to put that up. So congrats on him. And then in the other game, we both had Cleveland winning this game. You had it lower scoring. No, I had it lower scoring, 190 to 174. You had a higher scoring, 235 to 203. We were both right in a sense that I picked High Life to have, no, but Cleveland have 190. They had 188. You picked High
Yeah.
Life, or you picked Ham and Cheese to have 203, 207. So you're both right on different scores. So hey, look at that. We're great at this. But this comes down to, I think look at this game, low scoring, 207 to 188. I mean, a 20-point win for Hambone. Um, Jefferson, it doesn't matter who's back there throwing Jefferson, he's going to catch some balls. He had that big 29-point game. Jordan Love, 45 points, which is pretty good for him, but
Yeah.
not high scoring overall. I mean, there wasn't a lot really coming out of it, but Ski just had a total letdown. Diggs had 8.9 points. Mixon had 9 points. Pacheco had 8.6. Kincaid had 1 reception for 7 yards.
Dagger.
Pollard had 5.3 points. I mean, this is a crap the bed week. Even though the Sun God put up 31 and Tyreek put up 19, just not enough when 5 or 6 players don't give you any double digits. So that was a demise for Cleveland Steamers.
Yeah, and that's exactly the kind of game that Hammond needed because he's so injured. He needs, he kind of stumbled into another low scoring affair 2 weeks in a row in the playoffs, which puts him in the finals. And it just, I always joke around. It's like, never give up, never give up. And he just kept plugging along. He made some good moves. And let me praise Hambone. Let's do a quick Hambone spotlight. I texted you this, right? Here's some facts about Hambone. Now, listen, some of these facts, it's not fair to compare to some of the other managers because, for example, Lenny and EG came in a little bit later. They haven't had 20 years at this like Hammond has. And even Craig and Miller came in a little bit after we started. But let's talk about Hammond real quick. He has won the league 5 times and is playing for his 6th championship this weekend. And it would be a back-to-back championship, which is impressive. His closest competitors in that realm are Ski, Roach, Miller, Lenny, me, Sarge, and you, with 2 total championships over 20 years. And this guy's got 5. Okay, that irritates me a little bit, right? That's because this is a lot of luck. We think we're like experts at this, but you never know what's going to happen. So for him to have 5 and the rest of us to have 2, he's starting to pull away, and I don't like that. So we need to step up our game. He's got 12 top 3 finishes, and Ski's got 9, and then me and Sarge have 8 top 3 finishes in 20 years. So look, he lost half his team to injury. He's in the finals. He won the best score in the draft Olympics this summer. I'm starting to think, Grant, should we stop betting against Hammond? Is this the year of Hammond? Can nothing stop him?
Well, I would like to just look back on Hammond and find out when his good luck started and when he moved to Vermont. Because let's face it, in Vermont, it gets cold in October. And what else are you doing besides? He probably he spends all day and just reading the fantasy books. He's probably doing internet research. He's probably reading archives of old NFL. He's watching videotapes. He's taping everything. That's a prize. Him living in Vermont. That's got to be. It has to be the answer because it can't be that he's just good at this because that would piss us all off, right?
Yeah. You might have a point because I went up and visited him last year. There's not a whole lot going on in that town.
Yeah. So it's just he's just replaying games. And really, in all honesty, though, I think that it's one of those things where, if it were like he had 5 and you had 4, but he's doubled all of us, right? And he's going to be on the trophy again this year, win or lose this final game, which to me is being on the trophy is important, right? If you're not on it, you're just a forgotten name. And so that's really important. And I do think that like looking back at his, I will like looking back at his drafts, Justin Jefferson, Devonta Smith, Keenan Allen, Darren Waller, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, J.K. Dobbins, Javonte Williams, Kamara, Derwin James. I mean, if you look at that, there's a lot of Qs, a lot of IRs, a lot of just season-long injuries in that. I mean, J.K. Dobbins didn't even get to like game 2, right? So Joe Burrow out. Jamar Chase has had plenty of. Darren Waller's been injured. Allen, of course, is just now getting injured. Jefferson had 6 or 7 weeks off. So to have all of that and still be in this, that's a testament to really like paying attention and making the moves. And look, is there some luck in it? Yeah, but you can't be all luck he is, and I looked back at his last 5 weeks, of the season plus his playoffs, and we'll go over that as we talk about his team later. But yeah, I mean, like props to Hambone. I
Yep.
just would have to see his ass. Again, I hope that next time he can just take a regular photo with the trophy and not have to actually,
Yeah, I
put it
mean, look, we'll give it up to Hammond. I don't want to spend too much time on it because his head's already fairly large and square shaped as it is. But he deserves some props, and I don't know if he's going to win the championship, but I would vote for him for manager of the year for all he's overcome. We'll put it that way.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so let's go into the fourth place game: Cleveland Steamers versus High Life.
Yep.
And I think what we do, I can share the screen, or you have it up, right? So we can both just see it, and I can just pop it into the YouTube afterwards if that works for you, or we can just share the screen.
Whatever makes you happy. I got it right in front of me.
Okay. All right. So I'll share the screen, make it easier for me. So let's go to the matchups here. Share my screen. Let's go into here. And we are looking at this third place, fourth place of Cleveland and Ham and Cheese. Here we go. So, oh, that's not this. That's no, sorry, wrong game. Week 17. Here we go. That's what I'm talking about. Steamers and High Life. That's it. Okay, so this third place, fourth place. Yahoo has this as High Life as a favorite, 217 to 208. This is the real matchup. We have Purdy versus Lamar. So it's a rematch of Christmas. So we'll see what happens here. I mean, looking across the board here, I look at I think this is the week that High Life puts it all together. Unfortunately, it's the third place game. Purdy's playing Washington, so it's San Francisco, Purdy, Samuel, got McCaffrey playing Washington, Kelsey,
those are the matchups he wanted last week.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And you have Kelsey at Cincinnati, which Cincinnati has really had their number for the couple of years, even though Burrow's not there. I think Kelsey, wants to have a comeback game. Olave is questionable. We'll see what happens there. ATN and Jacksonville's having a tough go the last couple of weeks. Versus, I think, a Lamar Jackson who is peaking and has one more game. And this is the game. Lamar has this game against Miami where he puts it all together. MVP, number one seed. He sits out next week.
Yep.
And that's what we're looking at. So, of course, we've got Denver or Detroit with St. Brown and Dallas. I don't know. What do you see?
Yeah, so I think that Lamar's gonna hang with Purdy. I think Purdy's gonna put up more than 42 points. I think he'll break the 50 barrier pretty easily against Washington, unless they're so far ahead they just yank him. But I think Lamar's got one more battle to prove that he's the true MVP of the league, and I think he wants to show up Tua in Miami. So I expect him to be running around like crazy again and racking up points. So I think he's gonna break 52. Amon-Ra is just Dr. Consistent. He's in a high scoring matchup against Dallas. They're both going to be airing it out. It's in a dome. And of course, Tyreek, a little banged up, but I think he's expected to play. And who knows what's going on with Stephon? Who knows what's going on with Mixon? Who knows what's going on with Pacheco, how banged up he is? Look, I think it's going to be similar to last week. I think you can rely on Jackson and the Sun God and Tyreek. But after that, I'm not positive. You know what I mean? And so for that reason, I kind of am leaning towards High Life. And I think, that text I sent out about how you always seem to lose the semifinals, then blow up in the third place battle and score more points than anybody. And you think to yourself, I really should have won the championship. I think that's going to happen to Miller. Like, that's why I sent that text out, that little meme or whatever. I think he's in a prime position to maybe score the most points in the league this week with the matchups he has and be pissed he wasn't in the finals,
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I think that, looking at this, like you said, he's had a really weird season for a first-round draft pick. I mean, he's had, some big games, but just some stinkers. I mean, last couple of weeks, you're looking at like 8, 6, and then 19, but then 5, 7. I mean, that is 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 weeks where they suck and 1 week where he's been good, right? And so he really hasn't had these great big games. And I, as someone who's had Gabe Davis, I thought that Gabe Davis would be the recipient of Diggs being double covered and focus
Right.
on that. And Gabe Davis hasn't done anything. And the recipient really has been the running back and the tight end. So just interesting how it all kind of plays out. And I think
Yep.
that Tyreek Hill, as good as he is, he burned Baltimore I think last year, the year before, burned Baltimore. I think it was last year, and just had a game. And I'm willing to bet that the Baltimore defense is playing that tape over and over and over again and saying, hey,
Yeah.
this guy burned us. What are we gonna do this year? And we saw
Yep.
we saw on Christmas Day that defense, Baltimore's defense was everywhere. And in fact, the play that I think that epitomizes that the most was Kyle Hamilton when he rushed off the edge, he got chop blocked, got on the ground, they threw the penalty, he got up, he ran towards the ball and caught the deflection for interception. I
Yep.
mean, to me,
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff you look at. Oh, that's a defensive player of the year type of play.
Yeah.
We'll
Totally.
see. And it's the second year at Notre Dame, and a lot of the flack on him was he wasn't fast enough for the NFL. Well, I think that he's proving a lot of people wrong right
Yeah.
now.
He's one of the best safeties in the league, and they use him everywhere. I mean, he's blitzing. They're using him as like a quasi linebacker at times. I mean, it's just he's all over the field, and the ball seems to find him. Thanks for letting me snatch him up off the waiver wire.
Yeah, I'm so mad about that.
Yeah, he's a great player, and like Stephon Diggs had a great middle of the season, but this is not the time of year you wanted him to crap out.
Yeah.
So looking at this game, like I said, I think High Life's got the edge. And I'll give him the edge, and I think he's going to put up about 232, and I think Ski's probably going to put up around 210.
But we're close. Because I have a High Life winning this again. I have it higher. I have a 240 for High Life and about 205 for Cleveland. So I'm looking at a big blowout for High Life and a good redemption to go from pink plate to third place.
Yeah.
Not quite the first, but a good season overall, and just a couple of unlucky breaks here and there, and he's in it.
Yeah, I'm sure he's disappointed because when you put all your chips in, you start trading away high picks. You really want to be in that championship game. But he had a good season, man, and he'll be back with his big binder.
Yeah, that's true.
And give it up for Ski. He had a solid year all year, man. Final, record right now going into this third place battle is 10-4. That's a great effort this year because it was a wacky year, and our league's always really competitive. So props to him, man.
Yeah. Ski had a great year and just missed it by a game, right? So,
Yep.
And I think and ultimately, I think what this comes down to with Ski is, and this comes down to Lamar Jackson. I feel like Lamar is, and this is how it's funny. This is how he's going to win. He will win the MVP if he has a good week next year. He'll win the MVP because he'll sit out the final week and he'll have all the stats and everything else. But you're going to have people say, Lamar Jackson, 20 total touchdowns. How is he the MVP? Lamar Jackson, 3,500 yards. How is he the MVP?
Right.
Lamar Jackson, 12 picks. How is he the MVP? You're going to hear all these things about his numbers, but he won games. Now, flip side, in the fantasy world, that's not the same thing. He won some games, but he had 40s and 50s. He never had that 70, 80-point game that can make you win a few more extra games for him. So I think that's where Ski had to rely on other players. And when they weren't there, Lamar couldn't carry him the way that you would hope he would have done so.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think Lamar needs to have that 70-point game this week against Miami and just go off and be crazy if Ski's got a chance to secure third place. Yeah.
All right, boys and girls, time has come. The championship preview.
Yeah, I'm looking at the points are rolling in right now because as we're recording this, the Thursday night game's going, and I'm a little bit bitter because I knew all week that Njoku was going to have a good day because the Jets, as great as their pass defense is, not always great against tight ends. And I was just thinking, I wanted to predict Njoku. And as I look at this sucker with 2 minutes and 46 seconds left in the first quarter has 18.3 points for Craig.
113 yards in the quarter. First quarter. But
dude, as soon as we're done this, I'm going to Amazon and I'm doing that. You know how you can like click play and it has like It has you can watch all the highlights as you catch up to where it is
That's
live.
right. That's right. Yeah.
I can't wait to do that. But and
Yeah.
Brees Hall for Craig, he's got a lot of Thursday night action going on.
Yeah.
Already has 13 points. So look, I don't want this to skew anything, but I don't want to jump ahead. I know we want to talk about this, and I'm rambling a little bit here, but I'm excited for Creaton. I've been riding the train. All playoffs. We'll see what happens. All right. What do you think, man?
Okay, so I've done a little deep dive on the 5 weeks for each team leading into the playoffs and the 2 playoffs, right? So going into the playoffs, Craig was 3-2. His points from week 10 to week 14, 234, 193, 219, 221, 194, 214 in the quarterfinals, 310 in the semis. He's averaging 226 out of those 7 games. Conversely, Ham and Cheese, 2-3 last 5 games regular season. Of course, they won the playoffs. 272, 185, 233, 230, 170, 194, 207, averaging 213 over those 7 games. But here's where it gets interesting. The low of Ham and Cheese, a 170, 185. The low of Creaton, 193, 194. The high for Creaton, 310, 234. A high for Ham and Cheese, 272, 233. So Craig's floor is higher, Craig's ceiling's higher. And so that's where I look at it, just on averages. I mean, obviously they're playing other people, and I get it. But that 13-point difference in points, I think, is going to be the minimum of what we look at. I feel like and we talk about this, that's the minimum. And, looking at this, with Cooper out, we all know Joe Flacco, he throws a deep ball, but he also throws at the tight end. And Baltimore, he had a lot of success going to tight end. We see it already first quarter in Njoku, right? So I think having Cooper out, but having Njoku helps Craig tremendously for that reason. Obviously, we can see it along the way. I just think Craig is just too consistent. Last week he had Saquon on the bench. And Saquon has been a great back. He's had a couple bad weeks, but Saquon's had a great year. So, I mean, I think that, looking at Craig's side, that's what I look at Craig's side. And then looking at the other side, I feel like, Ham and Cheese, Kamara's had a solid season, has had some bad weeks. Aaron Jones is banged up. We'll see what happens there. Chase, of course, is questionable again. Deontay Johnson is not the favorite now of Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph threw a lot to Pickens. So I think when you have these backup quarterbacks, they find someone they like and they stick to it, because they don't have the time to develop a camaraderie or some sort of rapport with other players. And then Jefferson also has a new quarterback. So Jefferson, as good as he is, there's another new quarterback in Minnesota. So there's a lot of question marks for Ham and Cheese. And I think that at the end of the day, as much as he might get some points, I think the steamrolling Craig is going to take this. What do you see?
Yeah, look, I think Hammond gets credit for picking up Love, who has kind of steadied the ship for him at quarterback, and been pretty consistent. I mean, weeks 11 through 13, around 55-point average. A little bit of a drop in week 14, and then back up towards mid 40s, upper 50s. That's a nice pickup. Those are nice points to have when you're struggling and you have injuries. So that was nice. I think the Trey McBride pickup was huge for him at tight end. That guy is a sneaky good player in Arizona. He scored 22 points last week. I think that Javonte Williams is a problem. Kamara really let him down last week with only 9 points, and he's going to have tough sledding against the Tampa Bay defense, which is good against the run. Although Kamara overall has put up a good, consistent season, but not much last week. I think he's going to have. So I think he's going to struggle with his running backs, and he doesn't have any options on his bench. If he's got a chance in this game, it's with his receivers and with Love. You want Green Bay and Minnesota to be in just a shootout. And that seems to be what happens whenever Minnesota's in these games. And so if Love can put up 60, if Jefferson can put up 30, if somehow Johnson can hang there, with a backup quarterback in Pittsburgh and help him out. Devonta Smith has been injured. He's trying to hide it. He's not questionable or anything now, but I think he's been a little slowed with injury. And last week, Devonta gave him 17. So he needs big explosion out of those receiving tight end spots to hang in this. And if he doesn't get it, if those guys let him down, I don't think he has a chance. I know I've been saying this every week of the playoffs. I don't see Craig crapping out this week. I like the fact that Jalen Hurts is in there instead of Flacco because with Cooper out and the Jets pass D what it is, I think the tight end's going to go off, but I don't think Flacco's going to score his normal 50-plus points. I think it was right to put in Hurts. I approve of that move. I just think Creaton's got the better team, and Ham and Cheese is finally going to face it, and his run's going to be over. A great run, but I think it's going to be over.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with that analysis. I will say with Jalen Hurts, I mean, looking at we had 2 bad games, and the Giants, who are a rivalry, showed up for that game, 300 yards, touchdown. But now you've got Arizona, which is just porous on defense. And I feel like, Jalen Hurts, as much as he is not going to necessarily throw for a lot, he is going to run. I mean, his throwing numbers aren't bad, but he's definitely going to be able to run the ball. And I think you'll see that happen a lot in Arizona once they get ahead. And but yeah, I feel like to me, this reminds me of the old 90s Super Bowl where you would have the NFC champ and the AFC champ. And for years, it was a blowout. NFC will come out, here's the AFC team, the Buffalo Bills, and the next thing you know, it's 47-10. Whatever it would be. I feel like that's what we're dealing with now. Ham and Cheese is that AFC team. It's like, hey, we put it all together. We're winning games. We're at the finals, and then they get smashed. So, we're seeing this live, the live projections. Yahoo has it 231-83. I know you and I have already made our projections based on what we saw before. So what I know you're going to pick Craig. What do you look at here? What's the final for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think Craig is going to score over 230. I'll get crazy and just ride the Craig train as hard as I ever have. I'm going to give him 238. And I'm going to give Ham and Cheese like 203, man. I think he barely breaks 200 on this. And I think it's going to be like an easy win for Craig. And like I said, Hammond's got to have some, he's either got to have an explosion at receiver and maybe like a defensive player with 2 touchdown returns, pick sixes or something crazy is going to have to happen for him to stay in this. I think he's finally against a team that's really just well put together, solid, consistent, like you said, high floor, high ceiling. And we can already see the points streaming in here, man. I mean, it's like, Craig, 15 points from Breece Hall at the end of the first quarter. Like, I didn't have any performances like that all year where I could like sit back and say, if the game ended right now after the first quarter, I'm happy. Like, he's already got that. It's a beautiful thing. He's got 3 quarters left. These guys can score 30 points each. It's Craig's year, baby.
Yeah. And I think with Breece Hall is now they're down 20-7. Breece Hall does catch the ball, so you probably see him down the backfield. And then the tight end is always in play when it comes to a game to protect the lead because tight end is your safety valve for all these things. So yeah, I mean, I look at this too. I look at this is where this is Ham and Cheese has had a year of luck, bad luck, good luck.
Yeah.
So this is where the luck ends, both bad and good, and then the reality smacks you in the face, which is Creaton is a good team, and unless, like you said, unless we see TJ Watt touchdown return, 25 points out of your defense, we see Deron Bland for Dallas run one back. If we see these defensive plays, I think that's the only hope for Ham and Cheese to win this game, or if Jefferson and Love, like you said. It's a shootout in Minnesota. It is going to be played indoors, which is nice. So you're going to see a little more on the passing game than you would otherwise. But I really think this is the time where the luck runs out, bad and good for Ham and Cheese. And Creaton takes, I think, would be his first championship, right? Would this be his first one?
I'll be really happy for Craig, man. He's the best dude, man. He's such a sweet guy, and just he deserves it, man. And look, Again, Ham and Cheese could surprise us. He's done it 2 weeks in a row. But in my, humble opinion at this point, you can only put so many Band-Aids on the problem. You can only put so much lipstick on that pig. And this team that I'm looking at right here is a pig with a lot of lipstick on it. And he's going to need something special to happen to win it. So we'll see how it plays out, man. We'll see how it plays out. He had a great year. Like, I wanted to give him that spotlight. I wanted to give him some love. Amazing that he's even in the finals. But it's Creaton's time, baby.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll go to the pink plate final, and then we'll do your seventh place with Mr. Moves, Dan. And how's that sound?
Yeah, it sounds good. So you want to look at
Yeah.
Scorp Speed and Buck
Scorpion Buck
Nasty?
Nasty. So this is a game that I never would have thought, mid-season that this was
No.
going to be the pink plate showdown. I mean, this was both those teams were looking good. Sarge for a minute there, like Sarge, I thought, like looking at his team, and pulling up like the standings here. If I pull this back and I go to the schedule and look at Sarge, where's he at? Like, so Sarge, he was. At some point he lost his first two, one loss, then he won three in a row. I was like, he's coming like 240, 248, 230. And he lost 238 to 246 to you. And he had some games where he had what, five wins in 6 weeks. Like he
Yep.
was running, but then he just lost steam. 190, 183, 208, 188. He just
Yeah.
he crashed hard, and I don't know what happened with that. And then looking at score speed, same thing. This is a team that was like, three losses right there really did him in, like against Cleveland, Creaton, and the business, and then finally one against Buck Nasty. I mean, that's one, two, three, four, five losses in 6 weeks. I mean, that really does you in. So this is where you talk about like you always are in it and you have to keep playing and make the moves. But yeah, I mean, looking at this, it's just I wouldn't have thought this would have been the matchup in the finals,
Yeah,
in the play finals.
there's I think like I said 2 weeks ago, I think at some point Eric was looked around at the landscape, felt like he might not have been vying for an actual championship, and then sort of kind of preparing for next year. I think he did it a little bit earlier than he needed to. Because look at what happened to Hammond when he got into the championship. Right, you don't know what the other team's going to do. You find yourself in the finals, and so yeah, I think if he had stuck with the players he had instead of trading them for picks next year, he wouldn't be in this spot. I'm still surprised he's there because Stafford's had a nice, solid year. Higgins is going to put up points without Jamar there, and Moore it can be super hot. He's got a lot of explosiveness. Look at what Pickens did. Was it last week that he went off? And his team I think is made up of some explosivity.
Yeah.
But if they don't explode, and I know this because I had Higgins like 2 years in a row, he'll give you 8-point games. So will Moore. I mean, when they crap the bed, they crap the bed. These guys are a little bit inconsistent that make up his lineup. End of the first quarter, going into the second, Conklin, tight end for New York, has got 0 points. Kind of the opposite of what we see going on in Cleveland with Njoku. And then Jalen Warren and Hubbard are afterthoughts. I mean, these guys are not starters. They're backups on their team that are kind of put into a role, somewhat of a role. So, yeah, I got to give the edge to Sarge. I know you've been giving EG a hard time about putting that pink plate on his nice Beamer, but I think you might be right. I think Sarge has got the edge with Tua in a game they want to win and show out well. He's got Cooper Kupp, who's playing well late in the season. Noah Brown, if he's not too banged up, is going to put up points against Tennessee because he's filling in for injuries. And he's got Mostert and Achane going, and they're a little questionable, but they're going to be fine. Dude, those guys are explosive. Laporte is great at tight end. He's got Gibbs at his flex. I mean, you got to give the edge to Sarge. Am I right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think look at the team. They've got Higgins back up, Moore back up, Pickens back up, Hubbard back up, Warren back up, Conklin back up. His whole team is second and third options. Where Kupp is the first option, even if he's not having a great season. Mostert and Achane, I like saying Achane, and Laporta are all top options for their offense. So I think, looking at that score speed Buck Nasty, I feel like Buck Nasty has the edge there. That pink plate is going to be residing in Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah, the only thing that might happen, and I don't want to jinx anything because I'm not one to root for injury, okay? The way that I saw Baltimore hitting people last week, Tua needs to be careful because if he goes out in the first quarter, this whole thing's going to flip. And I know he's had a good year. He hasn't had any concussions, but I'm telling you, man, I saw something from the Baltimore defense that was frightening. And they were hitting McCaffrey harder than I've seen him get hit all year, dude.
Oh yeah.
So like barring something like that happening, I give the edge to Buck. I'm going to give it 217 to 196. Buck Nasty.
217, 196. All right. Well, for me, I think it's going to be a lower scoring game than that. I look at this thing as closer to like 185 to 160.
Okay.
So
I can see
just
that
feel
too.
like,
Yeah, you may be right there. You may be right there.
but I think Buck Nasty wins it. Scorp Speed wins the pink plate. And we have a new bitter manager going into next year's draft.
There's nothing like the fire it lights under you when you got to drive around with that damn thing in your car all year.
That's
man.
right. And answer those questions. What's that? What happened there? What didn't you took a fantasy football? All right, so let's look at your matchup with the commissioner versus the man with no moves.
Yeah, we don't have to spend too much time on this. I mean, look, you got to give it to Daniel. He spent most of his afternoon researching how he could maybe get a couple more moves in, despite the fact that he's already had 90. A for effort. I did consider, like, I don't know, maybe like, what do we do? Do we hook him up just to make it a fair fight? But then I was like, you know what? No, you need to plan for the playoffs, man. He's had 90 moves this season, and I only have one left. Like, I didn't manage it that well either, but at least I have one in case there's like a major injury I need to do at the last minute. So yeah, I'm gonna win it. He's got Howell in, I guess, in case Jacoby Brissett gets hurt and they got to go back to Howell. But otherwise, man, he didn't prepare well enough with the moves, and it gives me kind of an easy game.
It really does. This is the thing. You don't have any moves. He's got Russell Wilson, who's benched, Howell, who's benched. So your quarterback, now you're out 40 points, just like that. So there's no way he wins this. I mean, unless for some reason every quarterback gets injured for Philadelphia and Swift has to step in. They have to run the triple option in Philadelphia. That's the only way this, or if Jared Goff somehow steps on a landmine on his way to Dallas. I mean, that's the only way this happens where he wins. But then this goes into, you got to have moves because stuff happens. And if you don't, and especially like if this were like, imagine if this were the championship and they run out of moves at that point.
Yeah.
Where now you're like, oh, I have no more moves. I'm in the championship. I'm going to lose for sure. And so it's always important, I think, is one of those things. And also, just from my perspective, you don't waste moves on dumb stuff, which is like trading a safety for a different safety. You just let it go. A safety is 8 points, 9 points. Even Kyle Hamilton, the number one probably scoring safety in the league. 2 points, 3 points, 20, 10, 5. 0.5, 7, 12, 4, 22, 6, 9, 6, 9, 16. Like these aren't big scoring plays you have to waste on, right? Or waste any sort of moves. And I think that's one of the things like out of this is like you get someone, you ride them, unless you see something just abnormal. Or when I like last year when I picked up the Hassan Nixon who was running punts back, I was like, that's different. Let me pick that. But those things are so so arbitrary that
I think that's a great point to make. And I'm at the point now where when it comes to my defensive players, if I like a guy and he's been doing pretty well for me, pretty consistent, he's in the top 10 in his position type of guy, even if he shows up as questionable, and even if I think he may not play this week, I often will just keep him in there because even if he gets me 2 points, if I'm using a move on a different defensive tackle, who's going to what? Get me 3 points instead. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've swapped defensive players and had the guy I dropped or got rid of end up doing better. And it's like I overthink it and I'm wasting moves on these swaps where it's like sometimes you even need to leave an injured guy just in your lineup because you don't want to burn through stuff when you're going to gain like 3 points out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Especially, this is where like the prediction of Yahoo, I look at that a lot. Like there were some times where like, hey, my prediction, I've got this guy by 20 points. And if your player's playing on Sunday or Monday, if you have a big lead going into it, you might not have to burn that move because, hey, I'm up by 30 points. Why cut this guy? Especially to me, Thursday is an injury report. You wait for the injury report every single time. If you make moves, like I made moves, I made a trade with you on a Wednesday. Injury report came out on Thursday. Taylor's out 4 games. So even that, like knowing when to make trades, knowing when to add and subtract players, that's really important. Knowing that like when the NFL needs you to report your injury. So
yeah, and that's the other thing about making add and drops and stuff is like you could be picking up guys you don't even know are injured. You're going to find out on Friday they're not playing that weekend. It's like you usually want to wait. You don't want to make a bunch of rash decisions on Monday morning or Tuesday morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I used to do it all the time. Monday morning, 5 a.m., way into work. I'm like adding and dropping players. It's only players where like a Kyle Hamilton, a TJ Watt, those players that are impact players. If you see them available, I had to drop Hamilton for my team, you pick him up. But for most guys, I mean, even I think someone dropped I think Sarge dropped Levante David. And I was like, oh, he'll play a lot. I'll pick him up. And I'm not sure if he's done well for me or not, but I knew that he was better than what I had before.
Right.
So I made the move. All right, so that's our we got everything recapped, and me and Lenny, our seasons are done. I'm in 5th place, he's in 6th. We get to enjoy watching the fantasy football playoffs and real life playoffs happen. So
yeah, it's been a fun year. It's gonna be fun to see who comes down with the trophy, and hopefully it'll be transferred from Vermont to Maryland. Just because I'm pulling for Craig. Nothing against Hammond, but he's, like I said, he's won enough, man. He's sort of like, in my mind, he's like the Kansas City Chiefs or something right now. It's like I don't mind if he doesn't win the whole thing. It's okay.
Yeah.
He'll be all right.
Sure. We'll still see him on State Farm commercials.
Totally.
All right, so
man, let's go watch some football.
Watch the football. Watch Cleveland take it over. And my wish as a Ravens fan, Cleveland Browns, Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs, head to head. What a game that would be! What a game! I mean, Flacco won't get booed unless he wins.
I think honestly, like the Bills are scary, Miami's scary, but I think Baltimore would be nervous if they went against Cleveland with Flacco at the helm. That would be a weird game, man.
Yeah, and Cleveland's already beaten them once. I mean, Cleveland
has
a
great defense.
Yeah.
They have a great defense, man, for real. I mean, that would be that's a trap game. I almost hope for Baltimore's sake it doesn't have to happen because that's a trap game.
It is. All right, so this is our last podcast of our season. We're going to do a recap next week, and we'll also do some of the players that burned us this year. We'll do a best pickup of the year. We'll do a manager of the year, I guess. We'll do that too, and then we'll talk about whoever's lifting that trophy. And maybe, just maybe, what we could do is maybe we invite that coach in for a little guest spot and talk about
Q&A.
Little Q&A.
All right.
I think that'd be good to do.
All right, man.
Expanding the podcast, man. I tell you, we're gonna go from 12 views to 15. I can see it now.
We're on our way, man. It's just a matter of time.
That's right.
All right, brother.
All right, Jesse.
Talk to you next week.
See ya.